In 2024, officials from the Philippine Department of Agriculture made a bold promise. They pledged to ship more than 60,000 tons of durian to China within the following year. On paper, this ambition seemed reasonable. After all, China stands as the planet's most voracious durian market, consuming approximately 15.6 billion kilograms of the spiky fruit every single year. A 60,000-ton export target represented just a fraction of that enormous appetite. But reality has painted a starkly different picture. By mid-2025, China had imported barely 1,300 tons of Philippine durian, a figure almost 50 times smaller than what Manila had confidently projected. Today, at least 40,000 tons of unsold durian sit deteriorating in Philippine warehouses. Some have already begun to rot. Meanwhile, durian from Malaysia, Vietnam, and especially Thailand continues flooding into Chinese ports, commanding billions of dollars in trade value and capturing market share that the Philippines had desperately hoped to claim. Philippine agricultural officials are furious. Many believe China has deliberately closed its doors through retaliatory trade restrictions, leaving Filipino farmers to watch helplessly as their orchards decay and their investments crumble. But is China really blocking Philippine durian out of spite? Or is there something more complicated happening beneath the surface? Let's examine what's really going on. Durian divides people like few other foods can. Its pungent aroma, described by enthusiasts as heavenly and by critics as unbearable, has made it one of the most polarizing fruits on Earth. Yet in Southeast Asia, durian reigns supreme. Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, and the Philippines all cultivate vast quantities of this thorny treasure. Thailand leads the pack by a considerable margin. With roughly 2.46 million hectares dedicated to durian cultivation, Thai producers have turned the fruit into a national export powerhouse. The most celebrated variety is the golden pillow durian, named for its pillow-shaped bottom. This cultivar delivers a complex flavor profile. Sweet yet fresh, creamy with a sticky texture, and an aroma nearly twice as intense as standard varieties. In 2024, Thailand harvested approximately 1.6 million tons of durian. Projections for 2025 suggest production could reach 1.7 million tons, a 32% increase year over year. But growing millions of tons of fruit means nothing without buyers. And when it comes to durian consumption, one market towers above all others: China. With a population exceeding 1.4 billion people, China represents not only demographic scale, but also extraordinary purchasing power. Chinese consumers have developed a passionate relationship with durian that goes far beyond simple fruit consumption. They've integrated it into countless culinary applications: durian pizza, durian pastries, durian soup, and even durian-flavored beverages. The Chinese have essentially pioneered new frontiers in durian gastronomy. Here's the critical gap. In 2023, China consumed roughly 1.4 million tons of durian, but produced fewer than 4,000 tons domestically. That massive supply-demand imbalance creates an import dependency that Southeast Asian exporters have rushed to fill. In 2024, China imported approximately 1.56 million tons of durian, securing its position as the world's #1 durian importer. Thailand alone shipped around 860,000 tons to China, generating nearly $3.8 billion in export revenue. As of May 2025, Thai durian commanded an astonishing 96% share of the Chinese market. Compare that dominance with the Philippines' performance. Even during their strongest export periods, Philippine durian shipments to China barely reached 13,000 tons, a rounding error compared to Thailand's volumes. Watching Thailand reap billions from Chinese durian lovers, Philippine agricultural planners saw opportunity. If they could capture even a modest slice of that lucrative market, it would transform the country's agricultural economy, The strategy seemed straightforward: expand production dramatically and position the Philippines as Thailand's primary competitor in the Chinese market. In 2023, the Philippine Department of Agriculture launched the High-Value Crop Development Program, targeting an expansion of national durian cultivation to 15,000 hectares over 5 years. The initiative kicked off in November 2023 in the Cagayan Valley, where officials distributed 8,000 durian seedlings to local farmers. The program expanded planting area from a mere 4 hectares to 80 hectares, establishing what authorities hoped would become the nucleus of a revitalized Philippine durian industry. Other regions joined enthusiastically. Cagayan Province implemented technical training programs and policy incentives to encourage farmers to convert land to durian cultivation. Across the Philippines, agricultural workers began planting durian trees in anticipation of future profits from Chinese consumers. To accelerate development, the Department of Agriculture unveiled an even more ambitious initiative in March 2024, the Durian Industry Revitalization Plan. This scheme allocated over $40 million toward expanding cultivation areas, improving farming techniques, and building cold chain logistics infrastructure. The program concentrated resources in southern Mindanao, including the Davao region, North Cotabato, and South Cotabato, areas considered ideal for durian cultivation. Shortly after announcing the revitalization plan, Philippine officials declared their export target: more than 60,000 tons to China in 2025, scaling up to 200,000 tons within 3 years. The arithmetic appeared to support this ambition. China imports over 1.5 million tons of durian annually. The Philippine target represented less than 10% of that total. It seemed entirely achievable. Then reality intervened, brutally. First-half data for 2025 revealed a catastrophic shortfall. China had imported just over 1,300 tons of Philippine durian, representing a mere 0.08% of China's total durian imports. Compared to the dominant flows from Thailand and Vietnam, Philippine volumes were statistically insignificant. The crisis deepened quickly. Philippine durian couldn't find buyers in China, and alternative export markets simply don't exist at meaningful scale. No other country possesses China's combination of population size, purchasing power, and durian enthusiasm. With fruit ripening rapidly in orchards and warehouses filling with unsold inventory, desperation set in. Today, at least 40,000 tons of Philippine durian remain unsold. Much of it has begun deteriorating. Some is already moldy. Within weeks, significant quantities will become completely unsaleable, fit only for disposal. The agricultural boom that officials had celebrated just months earlier has transformed into an economic disaster. Filipino farmers, many of whom invested heavily in expanding durian cultivation, now face devastating losses. Orchards that were supposed to generate prosperity are instead producing waste. The emotional and financial toll has been severe. Predictably, frustration has turned toward Beijing. Many Filipinos have concluded that China is deliberately restricting imports as punishment, economic retaliation designed to inflict pain on Philippine agriculture. But is that narrative accurate? The quality question: why Chinese consumers choose elsewhere? According to available evidence, China hasn't imposed explicit bans or quotas on Philippine durian. The real problem, honestly, lies in quality and competitiveness. Consider the situation in Cavite Province, which is a significant durian-growing region in the Philippines. Cultivation methods there remain surprisingly traditional, in some cases barely more sophisticated than ancient slash-and-burn agriculture. Data indicates that more than 60% of Philippine durian orchards lack modern pest and disease monitoring systems. This technological gap, well, it has serious consequences. Excessive pesticide residues frequently show up during export inspections. The problem intensified in 2024 when Chinese customs authorities tightened quarantine standards for imported fruits. Many Philippine durian shipments failed to meet the new requirements and were detained at the border. Orchards operating without proper pest management simply couldn't produce fruit that satisfied Chinese food safety regulations. Meanwhile, competitors have invested heavily in modernization. Malaysian and Thai durian producers employ scientific cultivation techniques, comprehensive pest management, and sophisticated cold chain logistics that maintain fruit freshness from harvest through delivery. Quality control in these countries is rigorous and consistent. A manager at a Thai durian orchard explained their process. From the moment fruit is picked to its entry into cold chain transportation, the entire operation completes within 90 minutes. This rapid processing preserves flavor, texture, and shelf life. Philippine logistics, by contrast, remain underdeveloped. Many shipments experience delays and temperature fluctuations during transport. Fruit often begins deteriorating before it even reaches Chinese customs facilities. By the time Philippine durian arrives in Chinese markets, if it clears inspection at all, it's already inferior to Thai and Malaysian competitors in both quality and cost effectiveness. Chinese consumers have options, and they're making rational choices based on quality, price, and reliability. When Thai durian offers superior taste at competitive prices with consistent quality, why would consumers opt for Philippine alternatives? There's another factor reshaping the market. China is developing its own durian production capacity. Beginning in 2018, Chinese authorities launched large-scale durian cultivation projects in Hainan province. By 2024, the planting area there had expanded to nearly 2,700 hectares. Through agricultural technology improvements, Chinese producers have achieved tree-ripened, directly picked durian, fruit that's harvested at peak ripeness rather than picked early for transport. The result is durian with superior taste and sweetness compared to frozen imported varieties. Now, current Chinese domestic production remains far below consumption levels, so imports will continue for years. But as local cultivation expands, China will naturally prioritize established, reliable suppliers who have built strong trading relationships over decades. In this context, Thailand enjoys enormous advantages. The Philippines, as a relative newcomer with quality issues, faces an uphill battle. Quality problems alone might explain Philippine difficulties in the Chinese market. But there's an additional dimension that cannot be ignored: deteriorating political relations between Manila and Beijing. The South China Sea has become a persistent flashpoint. In late December 2023, the Philippines dispatched 2 Coast Guard vessels, a supply ship, and a civilian vessel into waters near Renai Reef without Chinese authorization. The mission attempted to deliver construction materials to a warship that Manila had deliberately grounded in disputed waters years earlier. 6 months later, in June 2024, the Philippines sent 6 vessels near Renai Reef in China's Nansha Islands. Chinese Coast Guard vessels intercepted and issued warnings. Philippine vessels ignored those warnings and deliberately rammed a Chinese Coast Guard ship, an act Beijing viewed as a severe violation of sovereignty and a clear provocation. These incidents didn't occur in isolation. The Philippines has frequently aligned itself with United States positions on regional security issues, particularly regarding Taiwan and maritime disputes. Whenever Washington intensifies pressure on Beijing, Manila often stands among the first governments to echo American criticisms. Trade between China and the Philippines used to flow relatively smoothly. But as Manila repeatedly crossed what Beijing considers red lines, China began implementing trade countermeasures. Philippine agricultural exports, including durian, bananas, and other products, have been particularly vulnerable to this shift. The numbers tell the story. Total trade between China and the Philippines reached $71.9 billion in 2023. But by the first half of 2024, Philippine exports to China had plummeted to just $4.6 billion, a year-over-year decline exceeding 20%. In this context, China's reluctance to import significant quantities of Philippine durian becomes more understandable. It's not necessarily an explicit ban, but rather a natural consequence of strained relations combined with quality issues that make Philippine products less competitive. That China allows any Philippine durian into its market under current circumstances might actually represent restraint. Other countries facing similar diplomatic tensions have found themselves completely excluded from Chinese markets. The broader pattern in regional durian trade demonstrates what's possible when relations remain positive. Consider Malaysia. When it began exporting fresh durian to China in 2024, the first 40-ton shipment sold out almost immediately. Chinese consumers eagerly welcome Malaysian durian, and trade volumes have grown steadily since. Thailand provides an even more compelling example. Bangkok has maintained consistently friendly relations with Beijing, carefully balancing its alliance with the United States against its economic dependence on China. That diplomatic stability has translated into extraordinary commercial success. Nearly 1 million tons of Thai durian flow to China annually, creating prosperity for Thai farmers and satisfaction for Chinese consumers. Both countries benefit substantially from this arrangement. The lesson seems clear. Countries that maintain constructive relationships with China while producing quality products can access the enormous Chinese market profitably. Countries that simultaneously provoke Beijing diplomatically while offering inferior products face predictable difficulties. The Philippines finds itself attempting an impossible strategy, seeking to profit from China's vast consumer market while simultaneously antagonizing Beijing on territorial issues. This approach was always destined to fail. The 40,000 tons of rotting durian in Philippine warehouses represent more than an agricultural setback. They symbolize the consequences of inconsistent strategy, of trying to have it both ways. If Manila wishes to compete successfully in the Chinese durian market, it faces hard choices. First, Philippine producers must dramatically improve quality standards, invest in modern cultivation techniques, implement rigorous pest management, and build reliable cold chain logistics. Without these improvements, Philippine durian simply cannot compete with Thai and Malaysian alternatives on merit. Second, the Philippines must reconsider its diplomatic approach toward China. Territorial disputes won't disappear, but confrontational tactics carry economic costs. Countries across Southeast Asia have found ways to manage disagreements with Beijing while maintaining profitable trade relationships. The Philippines could learn from their example. But if current patterns persist, continued diplomatic provocations paired with substandard agricultural products, then incidents like the current durian crisis will almost certainly repeat. Other Philippine agricultural exports may face similar difficulties. Trade volumes will likely continue declining. The Chinese market remains enormously attractive. Its scale and purchasing power will continue drawing exporters from across Asia and beyond. But access to that market isn't guaranteed. It requires both quality products and reasonably constructive political relationships. For now, Philippine farmers are left counting losses as their fruit rots. The ambitious export targets announced just months ago have dissolved into financial disaster. And the lesson being learned, painfully, is that in international trade, neither political posturing nor wishful thinking can substitute for quality, reliability, and diplomatic pragmatism. The durian sitting in those warehouses won't last much longer, but the questions they raise about the Philippines' economic strategy and diplomatic priorities will persist long after the last fruit is thrown away.